We have made it to the halfway point here in year number 3 of the Chicago White Sox franchise here on MLB The Show 25. And now that we're in the month of July, we have a big episode today. We'll be going through the All-Star break. We'll be going through the MLB draft. Of course, we had the number 2 overall pick, easily the biggest draft we've had in this series so far. And we'll make it up to the trade deadline, which is where we will start in the next episode. The team is currently 35-50. We've taken a leap from years 1 and 2, still in last place in the division, but this team feels respectable. We're on pace to finish with around 70 wins, which is a massive improvement from where this team has been in the past. We've been a competitive, respectable ball club, and that's really the biggest thing that we could have asked for. Obviously, the offense has been the strength of this team, tied for 9th in runs. The pitching staff, not quite as much, tied for 24th in runs allowed. Both of those numbers are regressing to the mean from where they've been in the past, so I guess that's a good sign for the pitching. The team is pretty much fully healthy, though. Douglas Cato's a little bit banged up, but pretty much everybody else is healthy, which is really exciting because that has not been the case throughout the year. Kyle Teel, who's been injured since the end of April, is finally ready to come back. As he got injured, he was hitting .411 and was the favorite for the MVP in the American League. We've been without him for the last 2 months, and the offense has been worse with him not in the lineup. So him returning is such a big deal, and while I don't expect him to hit .411, we're excited to have him back. We called upon Edgar Quero to take on a bigger role with the loss of Kyle Teel, and my goodness, has he stepped up. His numbers after April were not great. He was hitting under 200, but I wasn't worried about him. He was hitting the ball well. He was just unlucky. Throughout the month of May and certainly into June, the numbers have gone up and up and up. He's now hitting around 250, on base percentage well above 300, slugging in the mid 400s. Those numbers are around or better than what Kyle Teel did in his first 2 seasons. I don't want to compare these guys and pin them against each other, but it kind of goes to show where Edgar Quero is in his development, being 2 years younger than Teel. Granted, he is worse defensively, not quite as consistent, but the power numbers are certainly better than what Kyle Teel has really ever done. Quero is currently in 2nd place for the Rookie of the Year, only behind another catcher in Ricky Carlton, who certainly deserves to be in 1st with those offensive numbers, even though his defense is quite a bit worse. Quero, though, is in 1st place for the Silver Slugger at the catcher position, and he's currently leading all AL catchers in All-Star votes. So if he continues to play well over these next 2 weeks, not only will he make the All-Star game as a rookie, but he will likely start in the All-Star game, which is really, really exciting. Akil Baddoo, of course, has also had a very strong year. Now, he has regressed to the mean a lot in June. It seems like the insanity run is over. He's still playing really well, but not quite on the level he was earlier. Brian Ramos as well has not been very good over the last month or so, but unlike Baddoo, he's really struggled throughout the entire season. We had a wheel spin for Brian Ramos in the last episode, and it landed on Coddle Me. For that spin, we have to put him high in the lineup every game. He needs to play his natural position of 3rd base, and if we're not willing to do those things, we're going to have to trade him away. Now, I've never thought about the idea of trading Ramos. He's a 24-year-old starter with 3 years of team control after this one. But he's about to enter arbitration, and with his struggles this year, he might not be worth the amount of money that I'm sure he will be looking for, given his past pedigree over the first 2 seasons of the series. And with his struggles, his approach at the plate is the best it's ever been. Career high in walk rate, career low in strikeout rate, but he's just really not hitting the ball. So while I've never thought about trading him in the past, it is an interesting idea. Given his age and past production, there would certainly be a market there. As for the pitching, another guy who's been hurt is Drew Thorpe. We haven't seen him since early May. He returns, which is a big deal. We've had to rely on the youngsters to step up in his place with Hagen Smith and Noah Schultz. Smith has not taken a leap here in year 2. He certainly hasn't pitched bad by any stretch, but over his last 10 games, he hasn't really been all that impressive, and it feels like for the first time in his career, he's kind of hit the wall that a lot of young players see. Smith was so consistent as a rookie, but it seems like he's finally coming back down to earth, and we're hoping a good July can change that. As for Noah Schultz, it's kind of the opposite. He's been so inconsistent throughout his big league career, but over the last 10 or so games, we have seen the best stretch of Noah Schultz as a major leaguer. He had a lot of rough starts in his first couple of years, and hell, even in the month of April this year, I thought we were going to have to send him down to AAA. But he played well at the end of April into May, and we haven't looked back. He's been probably our best pitcher this year. Of course, we've got some younger guys in AAA who are also performing. Jairo Iriarte's ERA is barely at 2, so he's a guy we're probably going to look to call up sooner rather than later. And then the bullpen as well, certainly not great, but compared to where we've been in the past, it has certainly gotten a lot better from the previous seasons of the series. For our wheel spin today, this was not a very hard decision. I considered him in May. I considered him in June. I feel like we've got to give Edgar Quero a spin. He has been obviously a revelation for us this year. He's got a chance to make the All-Star team, get a Silver Slugger, win the Rookie of the Year. He has certainly deserved those honors with how well he has played in recent months. And even with Kyle Teel back, he's still going to play every day. He's been our probably third best hitter this year, not counting Teel, only behind Luis Robert and Akil Baddoo. So with that, we are going to spin the wheel for Edgar Quero. Hopefully we can get a good spin. I don't want to kill off the momentum that we've been building with him over the last couple of months. So let's see what the wheel gives us for Edgar Quero here in the month of July. And it will land on swinging for the fences. Minus 20 contact, plus 20 power. I can't say I love this. His power has been his biggest strength this year. So I'm excited that those ratings are going to be in the high 70s now. But he's worked so hard over the last month and a half to get his contact up, to hit for good average. And now it feels like that's kind of going away, as his contact ratings are in the, I think, somewhere in the 40s. Not ideal. Akil Baddoo had that same spin for May, and his contact really didn't regress, though. So hopefully we get lucky with Quero. As for the division we'll be spinning for, it's the NL Central, and that starts with the reigning champion Milwaukee Brewers, who kind of feel like a sleeping giant. They've been good, but they haven't necessarily been great. It only feels like a matter of time until they put it all together. And I feel like the sleeping giant phrase perfectly describes William Contreras, who lands on light work. All stats will go up by 1. Contreras has missed part of the year with an injury, but when he's played, he's obviously been really good. A free agent at the end of the year as well, so with his rating and potential going up just a little bit, it certainly cannot hurt his bank account. Overall, a pretty good spin for the Brewers, who look to continue to climb forward in the NL Central. The other 4 teams are all within 3 games of each other. As we start with the Reds, I chose Hunter Green, who's been kind of disappointing. He lands on Coddle Me. Now, we can't do exactly what we did for Brian Ramos because we can't control the Reds. So what we're going to do is we're going to check back at the end of the month. If the Reds' winning percentage went up from where it is now, nothing happens. But if the Reds' winning percentage goes down, then Hunter Green will request a trade as he looks to resurrect himself after a disappointing past few seasons. The Pirates really are not that bad. I feel like they're close to being a wild card contender. And a guy who's close to being really good is Bubba Chandler in their rotation, the former top prospect. The numbers are not great. His ERA on the year is in the 5s. But over his last 10 games, he's been quite good. He had a blow-up start a couple of weeks ago against the Cubs. But otherwise, I feel like he's been really solid over the last 2 months. And it feels like he's on the verge of being really good, with an already loaded rotation at the top with Paul Skeens, Mitch Keller, and Jarrett Jones. That is a dangerous foursome, and he will be a 98 for the next month, landing on boosted. The Cubs have been disappointing this year, and I would say their most disappointing player has been Kevin Alcantara. A surprise all-star last year, Alcantara has not just regressed, but he's been really bad, and he's going to need to play a lot better in July, landing on spitting image. If he plays well in July, he will be rewarded accordingly, but if he continues to play like this, some of his ratings could take a nosedive. And then you have the St. Louis Cardinals, who have improved from where they've been in the past, but for a lot of young guys on this team, it feels like they're running out of time. Mason Wynn is a good player, but I feel like he's running out of time to become a star. Guys like Heston Kjerstad and Jordan Walker are on the verge of becoming busts. Samuel Basallo as well is starting to run out of time a little bit. He landed on Mr. Versatile at a new secondary position, which honestly is a pretty good spin for him. I think having less defensive responsibility at catcher could do him well. They have Ivan Herrera at catcher as well. Now, I think Herrera's the guy who needs to switch spots. Basallo's the better defender. So I gave him the outfield positions because he already has first base. I know you're not going to find many catchers in the outfield, but Kyle Teel can play every outfield spot, so it's not that far-fetched. Again, I think they should probably move Ivan Herrera to first base and keep Basayo behind the plate, but this way Basayo can play just about anywhere you need him. There are a couple of other spins that we've gone over in the first few months that we do have some updating to do. That starts in Boston. Ceddanne Rafaela's suspension is over. Now it is time to spin the suspensions wheel. The Red Sox got unlucky with this last year when Roman Anthony got popped. So let's see what happens to Rafaela. Uh-oh! Busted! -5 to every attribute. So he got popped for PEDs, and he will take a dip because of it. So clearly the steroids have helped him out in the past, although they did not help him at all this year. He was hitting 188. So keep in mind, he already went up by 7 ratings this year because of the steroids. The -5 that he just landed on with the wheel, that does not account for the +7 he already had. So we're going to send him back down to where he was, and then he will lose 5 more ratings. He's now a 75 overall. The offensive ratings are in the toilet, and the defensive ratings, while still very good, are not at the level that they've previously been for Rafaela, who was one of the most impactful defensive players in the league. So Ceddanne Rafaela and Roman Anthony both hit and both busted with steroids over the last 2 years. Hunter Brown in the last episode landed on the potential long-term star. If he played well, his potential would go up even more. But I said given that he has struggled this year, if he doesn't play well, I'm going to send his potential back down. He was okay in June, but he had one really bad game. So his numbers are around the same. But he improved throughout the month. So I think I'm going to push his potential down a little bit, but not too much. Jack Caglione landed on boosted, and he played horribly in the month of June. His stats went way down. So no, he will not be keeping his boosts. If anything, some of his ratings should go down. He was playing well the first couple of months of the year and then has forgotten how to swing the baseball bat. So with that, we will make our way to the MLB draft and the All-Star break. We've got 4 series before that. 3 in Queens against the Mets, 3 in Minnesota against the Twins, 3 at home against the steroid-using Red Sox, and then 3 at home against the worst team in baseball, the 23-60 Angels. Douglas Cato back healthy, which means pretty much our entire starting group is healthy. Nick Maton, the only big leaguer who is on the IL. So in Drew Thorpe's first start back, he is looking for the complete game shutout, and he's got a chance for a Maddox, currently sitting at 90 pitches. Against Juan Soto, 1-2. This one is flown into the air, into center field. Luis Robert is under it. He will make the play. 8 scoreless in the return of Drew Thorpe. And for the 9th inning, the White Sox decided to take him out. No, that's so lame. His pitch count wasn't even high. Luckily, Cionel Perez would get the save. We would get the job done, winning this game 3-0. Our first win of the series against the Mets. Us and the Mets are kind of connected at the hip. There are a lot of former players who have been swapped between these two teams. Of course, there's Kyle Schwarber, who they got last year from us. Eric Fetty, who started in this game, former White Sox. Garrett Crochet started in the second game of this series that the Mets ended up winning 12-0. So we're hoping this last game goes a little better. It's tied at 3 in the 10th. Penn Murphy looking to get out of the bottom half of the frame as it's a grounder to second. Acuna pivots over to first. Smart play. Wish we could have turned 2, but smart play by the former Met. He knew he was not going to get the out at second base, so he's able to make the switch. But now New York has a chance to win the game. Francisco Alvarez on the first pitch. Flies it into center field. Luis Robert is after it. He will make the play. Neither team scores in the 10th inning. And that will bring us into the 11th. We'll see if either offense can get rolling. The White Sox looking to win a series against one of the contenders in the NL. And we've got the bases loaded. Guess who's up at the plate? It's Kyle Teel in his first series back. Teel has 2 hits in this game, 3 for 10 in the set overall against Adbert Alzolay. As this one is on the ground for a chance at 2. 4, 6, 3, double play. Like clockwork. Man, Kyle Teel really is back. So despite having the bases loaded, we would not score. And now Hayden Wisniewski has to keep this game afloat and potentially send it to a 12th inning. Alvarez at third. Jose Siri is up. Probably not the guy the Mets want in this spot. Behind 0-2, swinging a miss on the slurve. Siri chased a couple pitches early in the at-bat. He does not have great plate discipline. So behind 0-2, Wisniewski knew exactly what he had to do, as we would score. Luis Angel Acuna, sac fly, 4-3 here in the bottom of the 12th. The one good thing about Siri being the last out for the Mets is that he is really fast. So he's the tying run, and Jeff McNeil is the winning run as Cionel Perez puts him on first base. That brings up Juan Soto with a chance to be the hero, and he chases the curveball. A rare bad decision at the plate by Juan Soto. What a pitch by Perez. Now it comes down to Mark Vientos. Got him looking on the sinker. Full count, high pitch, debatable call, but the umpires side with the Sox. A hard-fought 4-3 win in 12 innings to win this series against the Mets. Colson Montgomery really shined in this one. 3 for 4 with a walk, a double, a stolen base, drove in a couple of runs. Teal and Acuna both driving in a pair as well. Hagen Smith with the start. He was okay, I guess, but the bullpen, top-notch, including 3 scoreless innings to finish the game. The Padres offer is a trade. We're going to see a lot of these here in July. I don't really know why they would trade a guy like Ron Marinaccio for a fringe backup infielder in Andrew Monasterio, so we're going to say no. Here against Minnesota, 5-4, bottom 9, Jorge Polanco up for the Twins as this one gets away. Walker Jenkins makes it over to second base safely, and now all of a sudden the Twins got a runner in scoring position. Perez severely mislocates it. It's dropped again. Jenkins to third. He's out of there! Kyle Teal throws out the runner. Even though Perez's location is all over the place, we're able to turn back-to-back outs on back-to-back pitches as he gets Polanco on the fastball. It'll bring us back to the top of the order. 0-2. Buxton pops it up. Will not get out of the infield. Luis Angel Acuna is under it. Another close win for Chicago as we take this one 5-4. And after winning this series on the road against the Mets, we start this set in Minnesota with a victory. Team playing pretty well so far going into July. Cody Hosey homers for the first time this year. Douglas Cato does as well. That's number 13 for him. Jonathan Cannon was not great, but the bullpen, again, was top-notch. 4 hits, 1 walk, no runs allowed in 5 innings. And look at the ERAs of the guys who pitched out of the bullpen for us. 1, 1, 2, 3, 3. This bullpen still has work to do, but we have come so far along from year number 1. Half of our best relievers that year, their ERA started with the number 5. So we have certainly made progress. We ended up sweeping the Minnesota Twins. The second game we won 5-4, and then the last game we won 9-3. So we are 5-1 so far today. Looking to add to the win streak. It's already at 4, as that brings us here against Boston. Bases loaded, full count, 2 away for the best player in baseball this year, Alex Bregman, with a liner to short. Monasterio off the one hop, makes the throw, and the Red Sox leave him loaded. Alex Bregman, by the way, his WAR is at around 7 this year. We just started the month of July, and it is at 7. That is insane. Bottom of the 8th. Bases loaded for the White Sox, and guess who is up at the plate? Edgar Caro, with an opportunity to break the door open on this game. He's already homered today, as has Kyle Teal. So with 1 away, we'll see if Edgar Caro can deliver. Robert at third, Ramos at second, Rivera at first. The 3 R's against Robert Suarez. 0-1 pitch on the way for Caro. And this baby is launched into center field. The legend of Edgar Caro grows another 462 feet. A grand slam to put Chicago up by 4. This guy is turning into a superstar in front of our very eyes. Edgar Caro with that swing likely locked himself into a starting spot in the All-Star game and potentially clinches this game for the White Sox. I mean, this kid is unbelievable. The same guy who was hitting below 200 for the first month and a half of the year has completely reinvented himself. He makes big swing after big swing, and this might be the biggest yet. Second home run of the game. It wasn't just a homer, it was launched into the shrubs over 460 feet. This guy's a superstar. Alex Bregman, the best player in the league, had the bases loaded in the top of the inning. He couldn't do anything. Yet Edgar Caro has other plans. Suarez will be yanked out of the game after allowing the grand slam, and he will be replaced out of the bullpen by Justin Slayton. 3.74 ERA on the year. We will see if he can keep the lead at 4 off the salami by Edgar Caro. So that will bring up the following batter, Luis Angel Acuna, who has been up and down since coming back from his second injury not too long ago. First pitch of the AB. I feel like he clearly went around there. You'll see it on the bottom left. He definitely did. I feel like the umpires have really thrown us a bone so far in today's episode. I'm not complaining, but they've done us some solids. 1-0. That pitch is called a strike. Okay, maybe the umpire is just blind. I don't really think that pitch was. Now the count is full. Acuna working a long and hard pause at bat against Slayton that results in a walk. Good job waiting for his pitch, and he ultimately didn't get it, so he will take his base. That'll bring up Douglas Cato back to the top, and he swings at a pitch he absolutely should not have for strike 3. But a very strong bottom of the 8th inning for the White Sox as the rookie sensation Edgar Caro sends one 462 feet into straightaway center field for a grand slam. The Red Sox made it interesting in the 9th, but we would hang on for our 5th straight win despite a 2-run shot by Jordan Beck. Don't look now, folks. The White Sox are hot. 5 wins in a row, 6-1 so far in the episode. The 2 catchers playing out of their minds. Kyle Teal, 2 for 4 with a homer, a double, an RBI, and he scored twice. Edgar Caro, 3 for 4, 2 homers, drove in 5 runs. What a game from both of them. The 2 youngsters turning into superstars in front of our very eyes. As for the pitching, German Marquez was solid. Bullpen for the most part was good. Kyle Nelson allowed the 2-run homer. He's been awesome this year, so I don't think we can get it on him too much. The Mariners offer is a trade, and it's an interesting one. It would involve German Marquez, who's had some good starts this year. The consistency definitely has not been where we would have hoped, and his value is lower than I would have anticipated going into the year. But Tyler Locklear would be an interesting get. I think he's a pretty good player. I remember back in year number 1, he had a really good year in the minors, and looking at his numbers, I thought this was a guy we could potentially target. I'm going to say no for now, but I've got my eye on him. I do like him a lot. I was hoping the grand slam by Edgar Caro would give this team a little bit more momentum to continue to play well before the All-Star break, but we would lose 3 of 4. In terms of some games we did not go over, I do have to show our 12-0 loss. Just a complete disaster across the board. Garrett Crochet, 8 scoreless innings against his former team. But we did have some other highlights, including sweeping the Minnesota Twins. First 2 games we won 5-4. Last game we won 9-3. Robert, Ramos, Teal, all going deep. Kyle Teal is it for great power since coming back. Drew Thorpe only lasted 4 1/3 innings. I don't know why they took him out so early. It's not like he got hurt or anything. After the big game in the Grand Slam with Caro, we started to struggle. We lost this game 12-5 against Boston. Noah Schultz did not make it out of the first inning. He was kind of due for a dud with how good he has been over the past couple of months, so I will give him a pass. We lost this game against the Angels 3-5, although Edgar Caro, the former Angel prospect, homered again. And then 1-0. Our offense did not give us anything, but it did not matter. Drew Thorpe, 8 scoreless innings, and all we needed was a Luis Angel Acuna home run to propel us to the win. Drew Thorpe has been very good since coming back from injury. In the 3 games he's pitched, 2 of them, he's gone 8 scoreless, which is really, really solid. So now we are 1 day away from the All-Star break. Luis Robert and Edgar Caro still lead their positions in terms of All-Star voting. But before we get to that, it is a big day on the MLB calendar, the 2027 Major League Baseball Amateur Draft. This is by far the biggest draft of the series for us because unlike the first 2 seasons, we have one of the top picks in the draft, selecting number 2 overall. Without a doubt, one of the biggest decisions of this series that we will have to make. I think this is a great group of players atop this class. I think you're looking at 5 guys who are worthy of the number 1 pick. There's Hugh Sheely, the projected number 1 pick, who our scouts view as the top prospect in the draft. A well-rounded center fielder with a good combination of speed and hitting ability. I think he's a little bit rough around the edges offensively, but the upside with him is certainly there at just 19 years old. A guy who we have followed very closely with the Team USA baseball program. There's Barney Wagner from the University of Texas, the best pure hitter in college baseball. Since we last talked about him, he has led Texas to a College World Series title, cementing himself as one of the all-time great hitters of this era of college baseball. Could that be enough to push him into the top couple of picks in this year's draft? His combination of contact and plate discipline really fits the exact type of skill set that this team is looking to build around. And then there's Antoine Sonnenberg, who I think has an extremely high ceiling, probably the highest of anybody in this class. And if we want to take a big swing at number 2, I think this could be the guy. A few people in the comments seem to think he is possibly a generational prospect, which our scouts certainly don't think so. I suppose it is possible, and if he is that good, he reminds me so much of Tommy Rogers in the Giants series. I think the two of those guys, at least in terms of skill set, are exact clones. Not to say Sonnenberg will be as good. That's obviously unlikely. And then in terms of the pitchers, you've got Tommy Black. Very solid young righty at 19 years old. He checks off all the boxes. He is as high of a floor as you will find for any pitching prospect, really other than Paul Skeens in recent years. And then there's Salvador Gonzalez, who's a little bit lower down the board. This would certainly be a gutsy gamble, but I think the ceiling might be too much to pass up. If you're looking for a Tarek Skubal, Paul Skeens type of ace in this draft, Salvador Gonzalez is the most likely to hit that threshold. Now, his floor is certainly a bit lower than that of Tommy Black, but I think you're looking at a guy who could potentially change your pitching staff. 5 players certainly worthy of going number 2 overall. We are certainly going to have a tough decision no matter who the Washington Nationals select at number 1 overall. So let's get this show on the road. The 2027 Major League Baseball Amateur Draft is now officially open. Remember, in this year's draft lottery, we did not have a whole lot of movement. The Nationals were the worst team in the league. They get number 1. We were the second worst team in the league. We got number 2. So it kind of worked out, at least for us at the top. Let's not waste any time. Let's get this show on the road with the first pick in the 2027 MLB Draft. The Washington Nationals select Tommy Black, the right-handed pitching prospect. So he is off the board for us here at number 2. Our scouts viewed him as the top pitching prospect in the draft and certainly a guy worthy of consideration at that number 2 spot. So certainly not a bad pick by any stretch for the Nationals. So here at number 2, we've still got 4 guys who we have our eye on. I know I mentioned Salvador Gonzalez was a name to watch for number 2, and as much as it would certainly be an interesting gamble, I think with the 3 hitting prospects on the board, it would be an irresponsible decision to make, even though his pitches and his stuff and his velo is unbelievable. I really think this comes down to 3. Hugh Sheely, Barney Wagner, and Antoine Sonnenberg. According to our scouts, the first, second, and fourth players in this class. With Hugh Sheely, it's pretty simple. This is the chalky pick. Number 1 projected player in the class, number 1 for our scouts. Then you got Barney Wagner, who I think is the best pure offensive player in the draft. A guy who I think fits our team like a glove and is the exact type of prospect who we're looking to build around with his combination of contact, plate skills, and potential power. And then there's Antoine Sonnenberg. If any player in this draft ends up becoming an elite 5-tool position player, it is him. If you want to take the swing on upside at the top of the draft, he is the swing to take. This was not an easy decision. I think the hardest of this series, but I think I know what we're going to do. With the second pick of the 2027 MLB Draft, the Chicago White Sox select Barney Wagner, a third baseman from the Netherlands and the University of Texas. So Chicago gets their guy in Wagner. There were 3 players worthy of this selection, but ultimately Chicago prioritizes the fit. picking a player in Wagner who I believe is the best offensive prospect we have seen in this series so far. The type of kid who you plug into the top of your order for a decade and reap the rewards. He's the best pure hitting prospect I have seen in this series so far. We've been following his career since high school. He was born in the Netherlands and is part Dutch. Moved to the States when he was 8 to pick up baseball. We've watched him very closely over the last 3 years at the University of Texas. This season as a junior, he won the Golden Spikes Award as the top player in college baseball. Some of his notable moments included the grand slam in the 6th inning of the College World Series quarterfinals against LSU. Had a 3-hit game the following round against Vanderbilt. And then in the championship series against Cal State Fullerton, he dominated, including a closing home run in the clinching Game 3 to win it all for Texas. He also had the final out at third base as well. A ridiculously impressive backhanded throw to win the College World Series for the Longhorns. This kid has been in a winning program. He has led the winning program. He has been the winning program. And we want that championship DNA inside of this building. And who better than the guy who led his team to a College World Series as the face, the heartbeat, and the best player on the roster. Ultimately, for me, it really came down to Wagner and Sonnenberg. Those were 1 and 2 for me in this draft. I think Sonnenberg has a little more upside, but the skill set with Wagner, his ability to hit for contact, his ability to get on base, and the improving power was too much for me to say no to. You guys know my opinion on this pick, but let's see the MLB Network crew break down this selection and some of the other top picks in this draft.
Not only did we get to know him, we got to know his family. And I feel like, man, this is like the greatest thing ever. I know they're celebrating, and rightfully so. But he did everything you want a kid to do. He went to the combine. He showed out there early on. He went to college. That was his decision. It was a good decision for him because he grew and developed. And now we're looking at the #1 pick overall. And so his pathway, we followed it a long ways. Got to know the family and the kid. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, he looked like a superstar in the college baseball championship as well. Oh, yeah. Did he? He dominated there.
I know you love those pressure-packed moments.
No doubt. You learn a lot about a prospect. Yeah. Hey, every #1 overall pick has a slightly different projection as they enter pro ball. But from what we're hearing from people around the sport, he might have a chance to be like that generational player, Harold, if all goes well. Would you agree with that assessment from
Well, there's no guarantees with the #1 pick. I got to throw that out there. Right?
Okay.
But I love him. I think he's got a shot to really do some great things here. But the game is interesting. But I do believe this. I don't know if he'll be a generational player or not, but I think he'll be in the big leagues quick.
Yeah.
Fast to the big leagues.
Yeah, most scouts think he's going to fly through the minor leagues.
Yeah.
No doubt.
I agree with that.
Again, hopefully we will see this young man in Major League Baseball as early as next year. Very exciting.
While I do believe that Wagner's the best prospect we've seen in this series, he's not perfect. He does have some question marks. Defensively, he's a little bit of a tweener. I don't think he is the long-term arm talent to stick at third, but he doesn't have the range to play shortstop either. His power isn't bad, but it could prevent him from being a true top echelon hitter. Nonetheless, I'm so excited about adding him to the team. I think he's going to fit exactly what we've been building here. With the third pick, the Rockies select Rich Bartley, a talented right-handed pitcher projected in the top 5. Our scouts don't really see it with him. They see him as a late first-round guy. I don't think I've ever seen the Rockies not pick a pitcher in the first round. They really try to make that pitching staff better. Mark Rosas, #4 to the Astros, did not think he would go that high. And then Antoine Sonnenberg, #5 to Toronto. Will he be as good as advertised? I'm curious to find out. The Blue Jays, though, are getting an extremely high upside player. The Angels would end the slide for Hugh Shealy at #8. And the Angels did this last year with Russell Russo, who ended up being a generational prospect. He was projected #1, fell all the way to #10. Did the Angels get away with it again? Well, the Angels need all the help they can get, considering they are really bad. Going down the board a little bit, Warner Gentry to Seattle, a little bit early, but he does have a fun skill set, good contact bat. Truman Dell to the Pirates, that's a strong pickup at #13. Another interesting pick I didn't talk about earlier was Ross Medeiros to the Marlins, projected #2. Our scouts were a little lower on him. Salvador Gonzalez off the board at number 15 to the Diamondbacks. I think he could end up being a stud at the next level. As we move forward a little bit, the Red Sox pick an outfielder after Roman Anthony and Cedar Rafaela got popped for PEDs. Avi Holt to the Tigers, really interesting pick. Very, very polished college bat who I think might be able to skip the minors entirely and fast track up to the majors. DeAndre Kutch, solid pick for the Orioles. He kind of leads the group of pitchers who we kind of had our eyes on at number 41 overall. Rolando Sixto to the Twins, high upside catcher. With the struggles this year of Ryan Jeffers, maybe they look to move him out of the catcher spot over to, say, first base. Randall Ferguson, drafted in the mid-rounds last year, decided not to sign and up his draft stock, which ultimately works. Walter Yamaguchi to the Twins in the prospect promotion incentive round. You know, that could be us next year if Edgar Quero wins the Rookie of the Year. Carlos Franco, projected top 10 pick. It seems like everyone kind of knew that, you know, he might be a pretty solid player, but certainly not worthy of going in the top 10. Twins pick again, their third pick of the day. They get Derek Cloven. Very strong pick. He was a guy we definitely had our eyes on at number 41. Just a few more picks to go. We're seeing some of these pitchers fly off. Rocky Gutierrez to the Reds. The A's pick the 150th projected pick. You do you, Athletics. Jermaine Riley, he's a guy I liked at shortstop. We scouted him late in the process. And then Phil Dobbs to the Nationals. So on the board at number 41, obviously, there's a name who sticks out like a sore thumb. That is Armando Mendez, the talented 21-year-old righty who our scouts have as a top 10 player in this class. I want to do our due diligence, though, around the draft board. A guy like Ezra Valenzuela, I did not expect to fall this far. A couple of other good pitchers to keep an eye on as well. So even though Mendez looks like the obvious pick, we've got to keep our options open. Although, I do think he is certainly worthy of not just being this pick, but a guy who probably should have gone in the first round. Throws hard, good skill set, no major weaknesses. The second round has been the sweet spot for pitchers in this series for us, with picking Rod White last year and Alexis Cosmo the year before. And for what it's worth, I think Armando Mendez is a better prospect than both of those guys. So do we take the chalky pick, or are the White Sox going to pull a fast one? With the 41st pick in the 2027 MLB Draft, the Chicago White Sox select Ezra Valenzuela, a relief pitcher from the Dominican Republic and the University of Baylor. So a surprise in the second round for the White Sox. We're not going to pick the starter, who our scouts view as a top 10 player in the class, but instead, we're picking a guy who can be our long-term closer. I have not done any scouting work on Valenzuela because I thought there was no chance he would fall to the second round. The early 30s is usually the sweet spot for the top relief prospects every year. Valenzuela, for whatever reason, slips through the cracks, and we're going to capitalize. Valenzuela has been one of the most dominant relief pitchers in college baseball since he arrived to Baylor as a freshman 3 years ago. 4-pitch mix with a fastball that tops at 96. I think his curveball might be his best pitch, although there's a good argument for his cutter that also tops at 96, and a sinker that goes as fast as 93. The way I see it is that we could be getting a good pitching prospect with Armando Mendez, or we can get a great player with Ezra Valenzuela. And I say player, not prospect, because I don't view Ezra Valenzuela as a prospect. I see him as a guy who's going to come into our bullpen next year and instantly be an impact player for a bullpen who needs a guy who can be the long-term closer of the future. We certainly do not have that type of prospect on the roster, so I think getting Ezra Valenzuela in the building on the big league team as soon as April of next season will go a long way in making this bullpen really good. Armando Mendez is slipping. He finally would come off the board at number 49 to the Athletics. Only time will tell if we were right and made the correct decision by picking a relief pitcher over one of the best starting pitching prospects in the draft. Tom Grady goes to the Padres. Have him and Tom Brady ever been in the same room? A lot of the guys who we discovered are coming off the board. Jake Randall is gone. Jim McFadden is gone. Tom Min is gone. A lot of our late round sleepers going way earlier than we could have expected. So we're going to have to pivot our strategy a little bit for the latter rounds of the draft. A guy I kind of liked in this range was shortstop Mason Foster. He ends up going to Cleveland at number 65. A little bit raw for a college bat, but a pretty high upside prospect in my opinion. That'll get us closer and closer now to the third round, just a few picks away as we have the competitive balance round picks. Here's the compensatory round. The Red Sox with 2 picks here after losing a couple of guys in free agency. George Levine is a guy I would have had my eye on in the third round. He's a pretty solid prospect. Ralph Roy, the second baseman, surprised he ended up falling this far. Boston ends up taking advantage. So now just a couple picks away. The Tigers get Ryan Rosado, a high floor guy at number 76. And then the Nationals at number 77 get Richie Rich. I almost scouted him just because of his name. That'll bring us up at 78. We've got 45 seconds to figure this out. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be one of the Discovery guys? Or are we finally going to pick a starting pitcher? Or are we going to go off the rails again? With the 78th pick, the Chicago White Sox select Jeff Argue, an 18-year-old left-handed pitching prospect from Illinois. So Argue is the selection for the White Sox. We will add a starter to the farm system, and yet another lefty enters the fold. I think for an 18-year-old, Argue's game is really polished. His 2 best per 9 attributes are his hits per 9 and his walks per 9. That's a win. He throws decently hard. I think he's got some potential to him. But for an 18-year-old, I think his makeup and his polish is really impressive. And ultimately, that's what leads us to picking him here in the top 100. You're looking at a guy with a really high floor for somebody of his age, but also a pretty high ceiling as well. And that combination ultimately gets me very excited here in the third round. So Argue is the selection for the White Sox, joining a very good group of arms in the farm system who we're developing. Obviously, we've got a lot of guys in AAA, but there's also Rod White, who's in Single A. Sal Casey, who we drafted in year number 1. He's in AA. So a really good group of pitchers who we've got in the system, and Argue is the next on the list. Let's make it through the third round now. It certainly becomes more of a crapshoot at this point in the draft. So at this point, it's really a matter of finding gems. With our last 3 picks, if even one of these guys ends up making contributions at the big league level, it's a win. The real question is, what type of dart throws are you looking for? Guillermo Castilla is a guy I really wanted. I was hoping he would fall to the 4th. Ends up a few spots before the Phillies. Really, really intriguing lefty relief pitching prospect. Him and Ezra Valenzuela in the bullpen would have been a lot of fun. Jerome Barr, another guy I was looking at. So a lot of the guys I was kind of hoping would make it here ultimately do not, as that sends us here to 108. Got some good Discovery players still here. Is this where we pick them? With the 108th pick, the Chicago White Sox select Norris Doherty, a third baseman from Canada in Rutgers University. So Doherty is the pick for the White Sox, 5'8", 170. He is small but mighty. Smooth lefty stroke, really good contact, very solid power, playing in the Big Ten. He's a guy who we've watched pretty closely over the last couple of years. Little disappointing as a junior. Going into the year, scouts saw him potentially as an option in the back end of the first round. Didn't play as good this year with the Scarlet Knights, but I think his prior pedigree at Rutgers should potentially get the White Sox excited. At one point in time, this is a guy who could have gone in the first round of the draft. Normally, with the later picks, I look for 18-year-olds who are raw but have high upside. There we go with a little bit different of a direction, picking a more proven college bat, who I do think still has some good potential. Through the rest of the 4th round, Edward Flood, the shortstop, is a guy we did a lot of scouting work on. He was a 6th rounder back in 2025. Ups his stock a little bit. I like his ceiling. And now that brings us into round 5. A couple of the guys who we discovered have fallen down the board a lot, with Adrian Rivas and Chris Guerra. That kind of tells me that nobody knows about them, so maybe we can wait even more. With the 138th pick, the Chicago White Sox select Connor Belliard, a switch-hitting first baseman from the University of Wisconsin. So Belliard is the choice for Chicago, one of the best pure bats in the Big Ten. I know we've invested a lot into the first base position with Martin Burt in the top 10 last year, and then Arsene De La Fontaine as an international free agent signing. But look, in the 5th round of the draft, we can't be worrying about position. We need to be worrying about talent. And I think a guy of his offensive skill set should not be on the board here in the 5th round. Really, really good season with the Badgers. I think he's a guy who could surprise some people, and I think he's a guy who's got a lot of long-term potential. So now that'll bring us through the 5th, and as I mentioned, with the 2 prospects who we discovered who are still on the board, I don't think anyone's going to pick them, because I'm pretty sure we're the only team who have, well, discovered these guys. So we can wait here until the 6th Not many notable picks here because, well, we didn't really do a ton of scouting work on the guys here in the 5th. The one guy I kind of looked at was first baseman Lee Kershaw. Low ceiling, but another productive offensive player. I just think Belliard has way more theoretical potential, even if he is probably a little bit worse right now. Few picks to go until our final selection of the day. Both outfielder Adrian Rivas and second baseman Chris Guerra are still on the board, the two prospects who we discovered. Now, we only have one more pick, though, so we're only going to land one of these two. It's more so a question of which player would we rather. Rivas is projected a little bit earlier. Guerra, I think, is probably the safer bet. 20 years old, higher floor, doesn't really have a lower ceiling, though. I think this is a guy who's got a good skill set, hits lefties well, and is really fast. With Rivas, there's a lot more theoretical outcomes. He could be really good, he could be really bad. The potential grade is lower than that of Guerra, but I think it's probably going to be higher. Switch hitter, really athletic, really high upside. So if you want to take the swing here, I think it would be Rivas. With the 168th pick in the MLB draft, the Chicago White Sox select Adrian Rivas, an 18-year-old switch-hitting outfielder from the Dominican Republic. So why are we picking Rivas over Guerra when Guerra's potential is pretty clearly better and his rating is probably going to be a little bit higher? Well, if you look at Rivas' skill set, I think this is the type of player who, if he's a hit, I think you're looking at a big hit. Switch hitter, impressive physicals, really good contact at his size. I'm surprised that no other MLB organizations have discovered him. Now, I don't think he's going to be the next Douglas Cato or Claudio Rubio because I think he's a lot less polished than both of those guys who we discovered, picked late in the first two drafts of the series, and have already made impacts at the big league level. I don't think you're looking at that with Adrian Rivas, but I think with a few years of seasoning and polish in the minors, you never know. So that wraps up the 2027 MLB draft. Chris Guerra, by the way, was one of the final picks going to the Dodgers. So that means he's probably going to have his potential in the 90s. Really exciting, but really challenging draft. Easily the most challenging picks we've had in the series between Barney Wagner and Antoine Sonnenberg in the first round, ultimately opting for Wagner, whose skill set I think is just too perfect with the team we've built. And then in the second round, between Ezra Valenzuela and Armando Mendez, I figured going into the draft, if Mendez is there in the second round, I'm going to run the card up. However, I never took into the account the idea or possibility that Valenzuela would have a chance of falling to us. And I felt like I had to take advantage, given that this is a guy who could be a really good player right away, but also be very good in the future. Hopefully one of our late round picks hit as well. I think if any of them do, Jeff Argue, the third rounder, would be the name to watch in my opinion. Really, really good lefty arm. So later today, we're going to go through the process of signing these guys, and then in the next episode, we're going to go through their ratings, and we're going to see if I ended up getting our selections right or not. One more day before the All-Star festivities this year in Chicago, but not at our stadium. It's being hosted by Wrigley. Still kind of counts, though, in a way. We're like half hosting the All-Star stuff. One more game, though, against the Angels, looking to win the series, and we do. 4-2, German Marquez with a strong performance on the mound. Zach Levinson homers for the Angels, but it's not enough. Akil Baddoo goes yard for the Sox. 6 innings, 1-run ball from German Marquez in the win. 43-54 going into the break as we get started with the Home Run Derby. Last year, we not only had a representative, but we had the winner with Kyle Schwarber, and his reward was that he got traded about 3 weeks later to the Mets. I thought Luis Robert, or who knows, maybe even Edgar Quero, would have a chance, but unfortunately neither of them are here. A lot of the usual suspects here in the Derby. Very star-studded group. Ohtani, Judge, Gunnar Henderson, Alex Bregman, Mookie Betts. This is a loaded cast that the MLB has put together for the Home Run Derby in Chicago, so I am expecting an absolute show from these guys. You know what's crazy? When probably the smallest name on this list won the MVP a couple years ago, that being Mark Vientos with the Mets. So ultimately, your winner ends up being Aaron Judge. He beats Gunnar Henderson in the final. So Judge is the Home Run Derby champion here of 2027. Judge and Shohei Ohtani have been banged up over the first couple of seasons of the series. But now they're both healthy and they're both playing a lot more like the Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani that we all know and love. So that brings us into the main event, the All-Star Game here at Wrigley Field in Chicago. Probably going to see some loud cheers and maybe some boos for the White Sox players as well. Hopefully we get enough fans from the South Side travel up to Wrigley for the All-Star Game. Let's take a look at the All-Star rosters first. Hopefully we've got a couple of guys in the All-Star Game. So we will start with the pitchers. Logan Gilbert ended up getting the most votes. He is the starting pitcher for the AL. Kind of crazy that he was traded away at the deadline last year by Seattle, but it worked out for the Mariners as well. Jarren Duran also ended up making the All-Star team. Tarek Skubals here again, Sandy Alcantara as well, leading a Tampa Bay Rays team who has completely rejuvenated themselves, first place in the AL East. That hot start they had was not a fluke. Cade Smith headlines the list of relievers. The name to watch here in this group, though, is Miguel Lozano, a high pick by the Royals back in season number 1. Miguel Lozano is the exact reason why we drafted Ezra Valenzuela in the second round. He was drafted, I think, in one of the competitive balance rounds in the 2025 draft. Did not take him long to make the majors, and it has not taken him long to become one of the best closers in baseball. At the catcher position, Edgar Caro not only makes the All-Star Game as a rookie, but he will be starting in the game as well. What a monumental milestone for Caro, who will go into the game with his contact ratings in the 40s, but we're just going to have to deal with it. Caro has played quite well over the last couple of weeks. So far, the wheel spin, I would say, has helped him, if anything. The powers obviously continue to be very impressive. Home run total is now up to 17, including the crazy grand slam against Boston. I mean, this is certainly not something I could have expected in my wildest dreams. Even at the end of April, when I said, don't worry about him, he'll figure it out. I figured he would play better. I did not think he would be the starting catcher in the All-Star Game. His rating, by the way, gets to go up by 3 as a result. Remember, players between 70 and 79 overall, their ratings go up by 3 for making the All-Star Game. If your rating's between 80 and 85, it goes up by 2. And then 86 to 90, it goes up by 1. The other All-Star we had should be no surprise. Luis Robert is back for a second straight year, and he will be starting in center field as well. I feel like we haven't talked a lot about Lou Bob this year just because we kind of expect him to be really good at this point, and, well, he is. I've got to say, though, it will be nice going into the trade deadline without any chatter of us trading him away. That was a big storyline in both seasons 1 and 2. He hasn't been quite as good as he was in year number 2, especially defensively, but he's still been really solid. I mean, he's the starting center fielder in the All-Star Game, for Christ's sakes. Certainly happy we have him locked up into that contract for the next 2 years, and hopefully once we get to season 5, the team is continuing to improve, he's continuing to play well, and eventually we will extend him. As for the National League, the highest vote-getting starting pitcher ended up being another Chicago guy, Justin Steele with the Cubs. He is not getting the start, though. Instead, it'll be John Means, who has completely turned around the Marlins, turning them into a playoff contender. Lucas Giolito, the former White Sox, there as well. I definitely think John Means does deserve to get the start, though. If what he's done with Miami this year, I believe he should be in the MVP conversation, not just because his ERA is at 1.5, but in terms of the value he has brought to the Marlins. He turned them from a perpetually losing franchise to a team who's now 15 games over 500 at the break. Now, obviously, it's not just his fault, but he is by far the biggest reason why they've been this good. In terms of the position players, Will Smith is the only catcher who had more votes in either league than Edgar Caro. A couple of good young players there, Ivan Herrera and Adrian Del Castillo, the second All-Star game for both of them. First for Luis Garcia, who I believe is a free agent at the end of the year. Keibert Rodriguez makes it for the Rockies, even though his OPS is at like 600. I did not up his rating because he does not deserve to actually be here, but instead the game is bugging. Plenty of star power, though, the rest of the way. Guys like Mookie Betts, Dansby Swanson having the best offensive year of his career. Ellie De La Cruz in there, Jackson Chorio, Jung-Hoo Lee! Our guy from the Giants series has certainly not been as good as he was in the series last year, but still hitting 300, making the All-Star game. And then in right, Acuna, Soto, and Kyle Tucker, Murderers Row. So that gets us set for the All-Star game here in Chicago. Who would have thought going into the year the White Sox would have 2 starters in this game? But we do, with Luis Robert in center field and then Edgar Quero at catcher. More on Quero starting in the All-Star game as a rookie. We have spent so much time talking about him this year. I feel like he's kind of become the main character of season number 3. John Means, of course, on the bump for the National League. What a year he has had with the Miami Marlins. 1.45 ERA, 1.07 whip. Even with just a 14% strikeout rate, it hasn't mattered. He's not going to overpower you. He's not going to throw hard. He's just going to be really damn good. Well, Jose Ramirez has other plans. Solo shot to lead off the All-Star game for the American League, and we already lead it 1-0. Logan Gilbert, meanwhile, as I mentioned, getting the start representing the Boston Red Sox. He would get through his inning. Luis Robert will get an at-bat here in the second off of an Alex Bregman walk. So we'll see what Lou Bob can do here in his first at-bat of the game in his 3rd career All-Star appearance. The 0-1 is hit pretty well into center. Jung-Hoo Lee is under it, and he will make the play. It's like 2 legends are coexisting. Luis Robert and Jung-Hoo Lee connecting on that flyout. So Edgar Quero will get his first at-bat in the 3rd, and it'll be against Paul Skeens. That is frightening. But if there's anyone who can do it, I believe it is the standout rookie, Edgar Quero, whose OPS is up to the mid-700s. Home run total up to 17. Working a nice at-bat. Count is even 2-2. Swinging a miss on the slider. That pitch was slow coming in there late. Kind of fooled Quero, who was expecting something quite a bit faster. Still 1-0 into the 5th. Lucas Giolito, ironically, is pitching now, having a phenomenal season with the Padres. A career renaissance for him. A guy who has really struggled in recent years and looked to be out of the league soon. And now here he is as an all-star. Runner aboard, Luis Robert flies this one high into the outfield and right field, where it is going to be caught by Juan Soto. I was kind of hoping Edgar Quero would face off against Lucas Giolito. Unfortunately, the next batter would ground into a double play, so it'll be Clay Holmes instead. It would have been kind of fitting, because when the White Sox traded Giolito to the Angels in 2023, they got back a big haul of prospects. The most notable prospect in that deal was Edgar Quero. So it would have been kind of fun to have them play against each other, but unfortunately it's not going to happen. Quero here against Clay Holmes. Pops this one high into the outfield. Juan Soto is under it. He will make the play. It has been an all-out pitching duel. We have not had a run since the opening at bat. We would get some offense late. Aaron Judge, 2-run homer to make it 3-0. The NL would cut into the lead a little bit, but it was not enough. The American League wins it 3-2, although our guys were pretty quiet. Luis Robert and Edgar Quero with uneventful performances, but they get the win. Jose Ramirez wins the player of the game, even though Aaron Judge's numbers were better because he drove in an extra run, but okay, that's neither here nor there. The Futures game is here as well. I find it interesting how much these rosters have changed. I think there are maybe 1 or 2 real prospects in here. Everybody else is a draft pick. In terms of our guys, we've got a couple. Martin Burt at first base, batting in the 2-hole. He started the year off really slowly, but has come along very nicely over the last month or so. And it's kind of fitting that right next to him in the lineup are a couple of the guys who we wanted to pick over him. Richard Marte and Sean Rose. Marte has not been very impressive for the A's this year, while Rose has been quite solid. Both of those guys are in AAA, though, whereas Burt is only in AA. So we can't necessarily victory lap quite yet. But it is sort of ironic that they're all together here in this lineup. And then here is the National League lineup. Willie Vaccaro, what a year he's had for the Cardinals. He's the biggest reason why I like that I'm doing more with players' ratings across Major League Baseball and minor league baseball in his case. Because when the Cardinals drafted him, he only had C potential. But I want to reward guys for playing well. And, well, he's playing really well. His rating and potential are going to continue to go up. So the AL ended up getting the win in a game that ended up being a lot more exciting than the All-Star game was. The star of the show, ironically enough, is the guy who I really wanted to draft last year, Sean Rose. He went deep twice, including a grand slam, driving in 6 runs. Henry Nava for the NL team was great as well. 3 for 3 home run, drove in 4. So the two of those guys dueling here on the big stage. But it is Sean Rose who leads the AL to the win. I will forever be disappointed that we will never get to see Sean Rose rocking the number 1 in the White Sox City Connect uniforms. So with that, the All-Star festivities are over. We are on to the second half of the year. And I think the full game that we're going to play is actually this very first one against the Athletics. I kind of wanted to see what it felt like to play a full Major League game basically in a minor league stadium. And I also wanted to make it a point to pitch with Hagen Smith, given his inconsistencies as of recent, see what's going wrong, or maybe start an upwards trajectory for him that can hopefully last the rest of the year. Luis Robert and Edgar Quero returning from the All-Star festivities in Chicago. Kind of convenient for them because our last series before the break was in Chicago, so they didn't really have to travel too far. Quero's been getting all the attention in the headlines, but Luis Robert has been on a tear of his own. In his last 6 games, hitting .478 with an OPS nearing 1,500. That is pretty impressive. Let's take a look at both lineups. Akil Baddoo getting the day off. I wanted to start him, but Claudio Rubio is also playing really well. Would have been easier if Brian Ramos, was willing to play off the third base, but since he's a diva now, that's not going to happen. Joey Estes will be getting the start here for the A's. He has not been very good this year in 31 innings. ERA in the mid-6s. Youch. Douglas Cato leads things off. He will draw a walk. One of the fastest and best base runners on the team is aboard to start the game. Brian Ramos, despite his low average in the 2-hole, it's a broken bat. Cato was going for second, so now he's got to get back to first, and he is tagged out by Nick Kurtz for a double play. So an unconventional way to turn 2, but the A's will take it as we take a look at Hagen Smith, 3.99 ERA, 1.4 whip. I don't want to say he's been bad because he definitely has not been bad, but he hasn't been great either, especially as of recent. He's not a rookie anymore, but he has hit kind of the rookie wall. Although he does get Max Schumann, who thought he drew a walk, but the umpire ends up saying otherwise. Brent Rooker now up for the Athletics. The top hitter on this roster made the All-Star team this year. Grounder over to second. Luis Angel Acuna makes the play. Throw to first is in time. And Chicago gets through the first 1, 2, 3. And at the second, we'll see if the White Sox offense can look to get rolling, as Emmanuel Rivera is up with 2 away, hitting around .250 this year. Dribbler up the middle. Joey Estes makes the play. And for a guy who has not pitched very well this year, he's been pretty solid so far in this game. Has not allowed a hit, only the 1 walk, which ended up leading to a double play later. Bottom 2, Nick Kurtz is up, facing off against Hagen Smith. Couple of top picks in the 2024 draft as Hagen Smith wins the battle. Got him with the splitter. He is through 2 perfect innings so far, looking a lot more like the Hagen Smith from last year rather than the inconsistent guy we've gotten this year. Finally, a base hit here in the third. 117 off the bat from Claudio Rubio into second with a leadoff double. Rubio has not played a lot in the big leagues, but he has been impressive, hitting .340 so far. And even with everyone healthy, he's still getting a lot of starts because, the guy's balling. Luis Angel Acuna draws a walk, 2 on, 1 away, top of the order. Big spot for Chicago to get themselves on the board as Douglas Cato hits it right up the middle. What a play. It's short. Can they get 2? Not quite. Fielder's choice. And the inning stays alive a little bit longer. Big at bat for Brian Ramos. Count is full for Ramos, and he will draw a walk. That will load the bases. I wish we had Edgar Quero coming up, but instead, we will have to settle for Luis Robert. The 1-1, Lou Bob up the middle. Diving play at second. Throw to first is in time, and Chicago leaves him loaded. We have not really taken advantage of this being a small minor league park, essentially. Not the first time we've played here. Remember, the San Francisco Giants AAA team played here. I remember using Tommy Rogers when he was in the minors, which was like 2 months. He was not there very long. Phil Silver belts one up the middle for a base hit. First base runner of the game through the Athletics. They've been waiting a little while, but now they've got Silver aboard, back to the top of the order, as that will bring up Max Schumann, who went down on strikes his first time up. Count is even 2-2. Belts this one, gets by Colson Montgomery for a 100-mile-an-hour single, and now all of a sudden the A's are starting to get something going. 2 on, 2 away. Big spot here for Jacob Wilson. Not quite the player in this series that he is in real life. It's it fairly well over to second. Acuna makes the play. Throw to first is in time. So despite a couple of late hits by the Athletics, Chicago does not let either of them score. A pitching duel through 3. Who would have thought? With the hot and cold Hagen Smith and the struggling Joey Estes. Kyle Teal leads things off in the 4th, and this one is hit pretty high and deep into right center field. Back at the track, at the wall, it is gone! Scrapes over the fence for Kyle Teal, 397 feet, and the White Sox are on the board. It's 1-0, his 8th of the year. And keep in mind, he's only played around a month and a half. A massive improvement considering power's been the weakness of his game. Only 12 homers last year, 14 the year before. Claudio Rubio with 2 away into center. That one nearly gets over all the way to the wall where it is eventually caught. The Sox do get 1, though, with a solo shot by Kyle Teal. Bottom 4, Brent Rooker goes down on the outside fastball. Nice pitch by Hagen Smith, his 3rd punch out of the game. J.J. Bleday behind 1-2, lines it into right. Claudio Rubio makes the play, and that's 4 scoreless for Hagen Smith. Maybe the All-Star break is just what he needed. Take some time off, come back strong, because right now he's having one of his best games of the year. Colson Montgomery leads off the 5th with a single into center. We need some more consistency out of the offense. Only 2 hits so far. That's a good start, though, for Montgomery. As that'll bring you up, Luis Angel Acuna Matata crushes this baseball into left. That baby is over the wall. A 433-foot nuclear bomb off the bat of Luis Angel Acuna, his 4th home run of the year. Unlike the homer in the last inning by Teal, a no-doubter. And it seems like the White Sox offense, after a slow start, has awoken with homers in back-to-back innings, and that will be enough to take Joey Estes out of the game. He'll be replaced by George Soriano, who's had a really nice year out of the bullpen for the Athletics. 2.5 ERA and around 68 innings in the first half of the year for the talented righty. Douglas Cato, his first batter, crushes this ball into left. You can forget about that one and put it on the board. 410 feet for Douglas Cato. That is home run number 14 on the year. Chicago goes back-to-back. Acuna and Cato. And all of a sudden, the White Sox are now in the driver's seat. They leave it 4-0. The power has really come alive. 3 in a row, perhaps? Hell yeah! Brian Ramos into right, but it just goes foul by around 6 feet. Almost were able to get 3 in a row. Soriano, scared off, does not want to give Ramos anything good to hit. So Ramos is able to work a walk. Base runner aboard for Luis Robert with still nobody out, by the way. Behind in the count, 1-2, and Lou Bob goes down chasing the outside slider. That'll bring up Kyle Teal, homered his last time up, and he will draw a walk. Not an easy pitch to let go of, but 3-1, he wanted to be conservative. That'll bring up Edgar Caro. Pair of runners on base, behind 1-2. Checks his swing, the umpire says he went around. We've had 7 guys up to bat this inning. 3 hits, 2 walks, and 2 outs. The 2 outs are by the 2 All-Stars, Robert and Caro. Rivera gets that one over the glove of the left fielder, could score both, as it's 5-0. Teal looks to score, throw to the plate, not in time, it's 6-0. 2-run double for Emmanuel Rivera. The White Sox have exploded here in the 5th inning with 5 runs as the A's go to their 3rd pitcher of the inning. The veteran Trevor Williams comes in for the Athletics. 3.1 ERA, has been pretty solid in just under 30 innings. As Claudio Rubio hits this one high and deep and a right. At the track, at the wall, it is gone! Scrapes over the fence, 382 feet for Claudio Rubio. And it's 8-0 White Sox, his 2nd home run of the year. A 7th spot here in the 5th inning for Chicago. This is pretty impressive. I would say we're kind of taking advantage of the short wall. We're getting more home runs out of it, but the first 2 home runs in this inning were no doubters from Acuna and Cato. The only close one was that one by Rubio. Colson Montgomery is the one who started the inning, and he is the one who will end it. Flies it out into left, but what an inning for Chicago. Acuna, Cato, Rubio, all go deep. Rivera brings home a pair as well. An 8-0 lead for the White Sox. Everybody's hitting. Well, almost everyone. Luis Robert and Edgar Caro are 0 for 6. Everybody else is hitting. Hagen Smith's going to stay in the game, at least for now, as he gets Jonah Heim to chase the outside fastball. Colby Thomas now up. Count is full. And he will send this one into left center field. Robert is after it. He will not make the play. He knew he could dive for that one because Cato is there as backup, and he will quickly retrieve it. Thomas into second, though, with a double. First extra base hit of the game for the Athletics. So he's in scoring position now for Phil Silvers. Singled his first time up. And he goes down on the 92-mile-an-hour two-seamer, well low at the strike zone. That's 5 scoreless for Smith. Normally, with a big lead like this, I'd look to take him out. But I kind of want him to get his confidence back up. I think we're going to keep him in a little while longer. Brian Ramos draws a walk. His third of the game, by the way. 2 away for Luis Robert. Swinging a miss on the low sweeper. That was not your pitch, buddy. Lou Bob 0 for 4. Scoreless 6th for the White Sox. Hagen Smith, meanwhile, is going to stay in the game. Jacob Wilson chases the inside fastball. Another punch out for Hagen Smith. He's up to 6 on the night. Brent Rooker for Oakland. Pitch number 100 for Smith is a grounder to first. Rivera makes the play. 6 scoreless for Hagen Smith, a guy who normally does not go deeper than 6 innings. But I kind of want to give him one more. I want to give him more opportunities to boost his confidence. And the next 3 batters are lefties, which I think bodes well for him. With 1 away, J.J. Bleday hits this ball high and deep into right center. Luis Robert at the track, at the wall. It is gone. 387. Rooker takes advantage of the short fence. And the Athletics are on the board. It's 8-1. So with allowing the home run, we are going to take Hagen Smith out here. Still a really, really good performance from the young lefty. 6 1/3 innings, only 1 run allowed. And it was when we were already up 8-0. So hopefully this game can help propel and boost his confidence for a more consistent second half of the year. The goal is that Prelander Baroa will take us the distance. With us up by 7, we don't really need to use our regular relievers. Nick Kurtz is up with 1 away. Baroa's first batter. 2-2. Grounder to third. Ramos, backhanded throw to first is in time! And in time comfortably as well. Maybe Brian Ramos should be playing third every day. 2 gone now. Jonah Heim is up for the Athletics. Count is even 2-2. And he swings way too early. He might have swung before the pitch was thrown. I mean, I don't know what he was doing there. A's on the board, though, with the homer by Bleday. We move into the 8th. Colson Montgomery with a dribbler. Going to be a close play at third. And the throw is in time! Brian Ramos not the only impressive defensive third baseman. Akil Baddoo comes in off the bench. Deflected at second base. No throw to first, though. And Akil Baddoo, who hit right around 300 the first half of the year, starts the second half of the base hit. Ramos, though, will strike out. He will not get a 4th consecutive walk. 8-1 here in the bottom of the 8th. Phil Silver for the A's. Hits this one into right field. This one is gone into the bullpen. 355 feet. This is not a serious ballpark. That is a flyout just about anywhere else. Maybe a homer in Yankee Stadium. That's it. Into the 9th, Mason Miller is coming into the game. That's odd. It's not a save situation. They're down by 6. Cody Hosey off the bench. Nice scoop at second base. Throw to first is in time. Miller would get through the inning. Maybe the A's think they can still win the game. I don't know. Runners on the corners. 1 away. Nick Kurtz in the bottom of the 9th hits it well into center. Schneemann cannot make the play at the wall. He was close. As it's 8-3. They're only going to get 1. A lot of substitutions in for the game here for the White Sox. We've made a bunch of switches. Kurtz all of a sudden, though, making it interesting with the double. Jonah Heim now belts this one into the opposite field. It's 8-4. Kurtz will look to score. It's 8-5. All of a sudden, we've got a game. Heim safe at second base. Don't look now. The Athletics are making it interesting. So they've got a runner in scoring position, down by 3. They are not out of it. So we are not wanting any funny business. We're going to go to the bullpen and bring in CNL Perez, who was up and down to start the year. I think he's really settled in nicely, though. 22 of 26 in save opportunities. Colby Thomas, 3-2. Got him looking on the sinker. Hopefully the A's are going to lose the offensive mojo that they've been building with Prelander Baroa in the game. Phil Silver 1-2. Swinging a miss on the fastball. And the White Sox start the second half of the 2027 campaign with a record of 1-0. We beat the Athletics in a very weird game, 8-5. Hagen Smith with the win. He was awesome. The offense was kind of good. I mean, 8 runs is a lot, but we scored 7 of them in the 5th inning. Other than the 5th, we didn't really get a whole lot going at the plate, but luckily we were so good during that stretch, we didn't need to. Hagen Smith, 6 1/3 innings, 4 hits, no walks, 6 punch-outs, only allowing the homer to Blade. Overall, a really productive game, though, from the offense. The only 2 starters who did not do well were Luis Robert and Edgar Quero, the 2 All-Stars. Everybody else was productive. Everybody else had a hit other than Brian Ramos, and he drew 3 walks. Joey Estes started the game off kind of well, went downhill pretty quickly for him, though. So we improved to 44-54 now, 10 games under, as we do not have another off day until the 29th. The last time we had a stretch like this with like 13 straight games, we went like 2-11 at the end of May. So hopefully that's not going to happen again. So we've got some interesting series upcoming. We'll wrap up this set, of course, with the Athletics. Then we head to Cincinnati, another hitter-friendly park, 3 games against the Reds, 4 at home against the Yankees, 4 at home against the Padres. All 4 teams kind of in the middle of the standings, competing for wild card spots, but are not that great. We're going to start to get a lot of trade offers. Sir Anthony Dominguez for Nick Maton. I don't know why Arizona would do this. Dominguez is having a great year, while Maton is a backup, is injured, and is just not very good. So, because of fairness, we're going to say no. 2-1 here in the bottom of the 9th in Game 2 against the A's. Edgar Quero with another home run. Perez, meanwhile, looking for the save as he gets Lawrence Butler on the fastball for the first out of the frame. Salvador Perez is now up for the A's. I believe he made the All-Star team for them this year. Still getting the job done in Sacramento. He goes down on the fastball, though, for the second out of the inning, and it will come down to the number 6 hitter in the order, Nick Kurtz. Made some impressive plays in Game 1 of this series, but he goes down on the curveball. Cionel Perez strikes out the side, and the White Sox win this game 2-1, and thus they win this series here on the road in Sacramento. Really good start by Noah Schultz, which is very encouraging since his last start. He didn't make it out of the first inning. Not a very good game offensively, only 4 hits. Edgar Quero, though, with another homer, his 18th of the year. Schneemann drives in the other run. 5 2/3 innings of 1-run ball for Schultz. A lot of base runners, though. 6 hits, 6 walks. Got to clean that up, but run prevention is the most important thing, and he did a pretty good job of that. Today is a day to sign draft picks. Let's go through the process of signing all of our picks. We have $15 million of bonus money, which is a lot, but keep in mind much of that will go to Barney Wagner. We'll start with Ezra Valenzuela. He says no. These are the 3 guys who are interested here in this first stage. Jeff Argue, though, also says no. Connor Belliard says yes. He's the first to ink his deal. Barney Wagner, our first opportunity to sign him, we do. $9.7 million. That is a lot of money. Ezra Valenzuela, though, we are struggling with so far. Hoping to get Jeff Argue here on the second try. We do. So he's officially with the White Sox. 3 down, 3 to go. 10 days left to sign. Ezra Valenzuela still says no. We can't offer him much more money than we're doing. So that could be a problem if we don't get this contract sorted out. 8 days left to go now. Ezra Valenzuela says yes for $2.7. That's a big one. We have $1 million left to split up between Adrian Rivas and Norris Doherty here in the final 6 days. We get Doherty, and now we have $361,000 left for Rivas, so we will sign him, and we will save an additional $27,000. So with that, guys, we're going to have a $27,000 giveaway. Put down below in the comments why you think you should get the remainder of our signing bonus money. We are on the verge of a sweep here in the last game against the Athletics. Brian Ramos, who has struggled to hit for power this year, has gone deep twice. One of the many guys performing well with an 11-1 lead. Ramos will not get a third home run, but he does belt that one into center field for a hit, 105 off the bat. An impressive game for Ramos, hoping that he can right the ship a little bit here in the second half of the year. It's hard to rationalize a guy who has played as poorly as him making all these crazy demands as we win the game 11-1, and our first set of the second half of the year finishes off with a sweep. had some very impressive offensive stretches. 7 runs in the 5th inning of Game 1, 7 runs in the first 2 innings today. Luis Medina, the starting pitcher, through 1 inning, allowing 7. Kyle Teal, Douglas Queta, Luis Robert, and Brian Ramos all go deep. Ramos obviously did twice, taking advantage of the hitter-friendly dimensions. Why does the bullpen have to make it close, though? We were up by 10. Jonathan Cannon had a really good start. Bullpen made it a bit close. Very next game against the Reds, another milestone watch as Edgar Quero is a triple shy of the cycle. He's 3 for 3, homer, double, has driven in 3 runs. Hard to get a triple in this ballpark, though, given, again, its smaller dimensions, as he's certainly not going to get a triple. He grounds it out to second base. Another good win, though, for the White Sox, who are 4-0 since the All-Star break, with another impressive performance offensively for Edgar Quero, who homered again, his 19th of the year, a triple shy of the cycle, as Luis Angel Acuna also goes deep as well. So the White Sox now are 4-0 since the All-Star break and 9-3 in July. Mariners offers another trade with Tyler Locklear. Now, I'm not going to trade Akil Baddoo for him, but again, it's interesting that they seem like they really want to trade him away. We lost the second game against Cincinnati, so this is the rubber match looking to win this series. Down by 1 in the top of the 9th with runners on the corners. Edgar Quero, 2 for 3, homered again, his 20th of the year. And lucky for us, we have Luis Robert sitting on the bench with Edgar Quero on deck. Game on the line, Lou Bob ahead 2-0. He has not played well since the break, as it's on the ground to second. The scoop by McClain. The throw to first is in time, and the Reds win the game and the series. We will not get another Edgar Quero at bat, unfortunately. Cincinnati takes this one 4-3, despite another standout performance by our elite catcher. Stuart Fairchild with a grand slam in the second inning off of Hagen Smith, who pitched pretty well otherwise. He didn't allow another run after the second inning. Bullpen was great. 3 nearly perfect innings. So overall, the pitching was pretty good in this game. It was just that, one swing can really change things, and that was the case today. Here against the Yankees in the first game, 6-5, bottom 9, 1 away. The speedster Acuna's at third base for Akil Baddoo. Luis Robert, I mentioned he has struggled since the All-Star break. He has 2 homers in this game. I think it's fair to say he's back. Baddoo, meanwhile, pops it in the air in the left. This one is caught. You only live once. We're going to send the runner. And I thought it was going to be a more dramatic play. He was safe comfortably. Not a very good throw in left by Oswaldo Cabrera. So the White Sox tie the game at 6. Now we will move into the top of the 10th. 2 runners on. Prelander Berroa, 4 scoreless innings. As it's everyone's favorite relief pitcher, Bobby Dahlbeck, who puts it on the ground. Could be a double play. And it is! Dominance out of the pen by Berroa. He's thrown nearly 5 innings. We might need another reliever like Bobby Dahlbeck to come and save us. Bottom of the 10th now with a chance to win. Luis Robert has homered twice in this game. A third would clinch it. Even a base hit would just finish off the job. He sits at 22 on the year. Edgar Quero tied him at 20 in that last game against Cincinnati. So he had to remind everyone who the rightful leader in home runs is. Flown into center, caught by Abraham Toro. Why they have him in center field, I don't really know. Runner tags up for third. He is safe. So now there's a runner 90 feet away from home. If this ball is hit well into play, we could win the game. And guess who's up? It is Edgar Quero with a chance to win the game. Now, we're still in player lock mode for Luis Robert, so unfortunately, we cannot use our Edgar Quero. We have to watch him from the dugout instead. Against Jake Cousins, the 0-1. Quero hits it well, and he thinks he ends it. Flips the bat, hits it high and deep into center field. At the track, it is caught. No walk-off home run for Quero, but it will score Emmanuel Rivera off the sac fly. And the White Sox walk it off 7-6 against the Yankees. Edgar Quero, the hero, with the sacrifice to finish it. I feel like that inning is the perfect encapsulation of our season. Quero with a good at-bat, sac fly, gets all the credit. But Luis Robert's the one who advanced the runner to third base. He deserves an equal amount of the credit. He also homered twice and drove in 4, so, that's certainly worth noting. The real star of the show, though, was probably neither of those two. I think Prelander Berroa. We've got to give him his flowers. A guy who's not had a very good year. I'm pretty close to sending him down to AAA. But he won us the game. 4 2/3 scoreless innings after Hayden Wisniewski nearly choked it in the 6th. So I do want to point out with the Yankees, though, Edgar Quero is the leader for Rookie of the Year, but Munetaka Murakami, who did not play the first month of the year, is quickly on his tail, hitting .313 OPS above 1,000. Another trade offer from the Mariners, Colin Snyder, 2.03 ERA. There's zero reason for them to do this, as much as I want to, so we are going to say no. We're getting offered so many good relief pitchers. Here's another one, Bobby Dalbec. I'm just saying, Bobby Dalbec's career whip is 1. That's better than most can say. Jared Koenig now from the Brewers. He's been not as good as some of the others, but still pretty solid. This trade, I guess, is a little more reasonable, although I don't know why they would want Andrew Monasterio back. So after our walk-off win against the Yankees, I was hoping that would lead to us playing well. Not quite. We allowed 34 runs over the last 3 games. 34. Edgar Quero homered in the second game. Again. Jonathan Cannon was not very good, and the pitching as a whole was just a huge disaster in this series. Second game, we only lost 8-2. Drew Thorpe with a dud. And then 13-1 in the last game. Yikes. Edgar Quero homered yet again, but he was really the only positive of this series. We reverted back to the 2024 White Sox, and we are going to make a switch. Jonathan Cannon's just too damn inconsistent. He's been the same guy since year 1 of this series. He has really good starts and really bad starts. I kind of want to give Jairo Iriarte an opportunity anyway. This decision is less about Cannon, but more so about the fact that Jairo Iriarte has a 1.82 ERA, and I can't really rationalize keeping him in the minors. This might be his last opportunity, though, to prove himself as a starter, because when he has started for us over the last couple of years, he hasn't been good, and he hasn't shown he can go long into games. Probably more of the reliever long term, but with how well he has started games in AAA this year, we've got to give him one more shot. Really pivotal series against the Padres upcoming with our pitching disaster class previously against the Yankees, as the Tigers offer us Alex Lang. I wouldn't say he's been good this year, so I guess maybe that's a little more fair of a trade. Yuki Matsui as well. Why does everyone want Andrew Monasterio? He's hitting like 170. I don't see what the appeal is other than that he draws walks. So after splitting the first 2 games against San Diego, bases loaded, down by 1, look who's up. Edgar Quero. How fitting. Are we going to run it back again? Against Matsui, the 1-0 hits it well into center. Not a grand slam, but it should score a run off the tag. Over to third, everybody is safe. A sacrifice fly for Edgar Quero, and we are tied at 6. Another successful at-bat for our superstar. Yeah, I said it. The guy's been a superstar over the last 2 months. Akil Baddoo gets plunked. Charge the mound! And the bases are loaded for Emmanuel Rivera, who chases a high fastball that he absolutely should not have swung at. So we left him loaded. We do get 1, though, and we'll move into the top of the 9th. Penn Murphy out of the bullpen for Chicago. 2 on. Dominic Fletcher was up. He ended up being out. And then Fernando Tatis Jr. chases the sweeper. Great pitch by Murphy, who gives us 2 scoreless. Now the chance to walk it off in one of our most important series of the year, because I want to get some momentum going into the deadline. So we would not walk it off. Jake Cronenworth 2-run homer in the 10th. And now the bases are loaded here in the bottom half. Daniel Schneemann is up. He is a demon at the end of games. For whatever reason, he just seems to have a clutch gene. Not today, though. Pops it up, caught by Merrill. San Diego wins this game 8-6. They end up winning the series. Very competitive series for us, though, so it's hard to really complain too much, even though we only won 1 game. Jairo Iriarte made his first start of the year in this one. He was not very good. Lucas Giolito, the former White Sox, was on the mound for the Padres. He also was not great. For Iriarte, though, I don't want to panic because it was his first big league start of the year. We're going to give him time. But, as I said, we're running out of patience. He's given us a full season's worth of starts. If it's not going to happen now, I don't know if it's ever going to happen, at least as a starting pitcher. I think he can be a good reliever, but as a starter, I don't know. Douglas Cato hurts his finger, so he'll miss the first week or so of August. That was really the only serious injury for us in July. We stayed super healthy this month. We did lose this game 9-7. We were up comfortably late, and the bullpen blew it. Luis Robert, Edgar Quero both homered. Hagen Smith did not have a great start. He walked 6 batters. As for the game we won, Luis Robert homered here as well. He homered in all 3 games against San Diego. I think the last game he homered twice. So that's 4 homers in this series for Lou Bob. Noah Schultz, 6 innings, 3 earned, got the win. So Edgar Quero's wheel spin is done. He'll go back to his actual ratings. I certainly noticed an improvement in power. His average went up, though, which is weird because his contact ratings got way worse. I'm not complaining, but that is certainly odd. A guy we haven't really talked about a whole lot today is Kyle Teal. He had a really quietly good month of July. He's not hit 400 anymore, but his OPS is still in the mid-900s. And to put that in perspective, that's 150 points higher than Edgar Quero, who we are rightfully deeming as the second coming. So that gets us set for the trade deadline in the next episode. 49-61 off of a very up and down month of July. There were a lot of really good moments, such as the grand slam by Edgar Quero, but some really bad moments as well, such as this horrible series against the Yankees. What is the plan for the trade deadline? Let me know what you think we should do down below in the comments. Let me know what you thought of our draft picks as well. I know this was a really long episode. I don't know how it got to be 90 minutes, but hope you guys enjoyed a little extra treat. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace out.